All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Cameron Champa. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's just titled Champa. It's my last name. There's somebody walking their dog outside. Um, I am a writer and a musician and like a visual artist, I guess. I'm just a guy that likes to make art. Um, and I like to talk about art. I like to talk about books that I've read. I make music under the O Sato name, OH space SATO. If you like sort of electronic, strange jazz fusion inspired compositions. Basically, if Fortet tried to make an Arthur Verocai record, or Fortet tried to make a Bad Bad Not Good record, then my music is probably your sort of field of interest. I'm currently writing a book called Pomegranate Vein. Don't know when the fuck it's going to be out. I'm still writing the draft, but it's coming along pretty good, and I'm really enjoying the process. So be on the lookout for a book. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking about, as you can see by this piece of paper I've attached to my wall, the book Barbarian Days by William Finnegan. Barbarian Days, A Surfing Life. This is a hardcover copy that I bought from Thrift Books. It came with a used napkin from United Airlines with a little coffee ring and 2 bookmarks, one of which is in here. Santa bookmark. Ooh, I have my registration non-renewal notice from the town office because I failed to pay my excise tax. I've since done it, but that's still in that book. I had a really good time reading this book. I read it throughout the summer. I'm kind of I feel like a slow reader, so it took me a while to burn through it. But it was good. I enjoyed it. I think it touches on, I just tried to record this video and it came out a little bit sloppy and awkward, so I'm trying again. It touches a lot, I think, on the male perspective and also the perspective of this guy that comes probably from a little bit of wealth, it seems, who did a little bit of traveling, kind of dedicated himself to surfing and the hunt for surfing spots. But it discusses his life story through the lens of surfing, starting at a very young age, I think in middle school, all the way up through where he is now. I think at the time he was in his late 60s. Now he's like 70 something. One of the people in the book, this guy Brian, has since passed away. So it's interesting to see because the character, or not the character, but Brian in the book, he's like just turning 30, and this is like 1976. And he just died, I think, this year in January 2024. So it's just like, damn, that guy's life, he had no idea where he was going to end up, and now his life is over. Kind of just puts into perspective everything. So yeah, really cool book. I feel like every American should at least attempt to write their own autobiography, not out of like a narcissistic sort of thing, like, oh, my life is so interesting, but just as a means of like going through the memories. That Nabokov autobiography I've not read, I want to read, but I feel like the title of that encapsulates that. I think it's called, it's some name like Memory Come Back to Me, or I Recall Memory, just like the attempt to dive back into memory, not in like a nostalgic sense or like, damn, things were so much better back then, or like a comforting sense, but just a means of like fully touching the braille of life, running your fingers along all of the bumps and ridges, and just coming to terms with everything that you've experienced and feeling kind of a sense of completion and satisfaction through that. I think also just doing daily self-reflection and journaling is also a really good way of doing that without having to write an entire book. Anyways, let's get into the video. This is a good video if you want to listen to it while you're going to the gym, if you want to listen to it while you're doing something fun, if you're going on a long drive. I'm not going to make it too long. I'm going to try to make it pretty concise. But yeah, feel no compulsion to sit here and watch it. It's probably better for listening. Okay. Everything I Learned from Barbarian Days by William Finnegan. I have a little piece of paper here that's going to guide me through the exploratory process. Okay? All right. The first note is build a foundation of strength first. Get used to risky endeavors and eventually build up to scarier choices. There's no better time to improve life than now. Get outside, be able to remember your life as real and connected. He just talks a lot about, both directly and indirectly, how he built a life that he really enjoys, because he ended up becoming a writer for the New York Times, I believe, and he's written a couple books on journalism and obviously Barbarian Days, and he describes a novel about life working as a railroad brakeman that ended up not happening, because if you look him up, you're not going to see that book in any of his discography, for lack of a better word. And but he talks a lot about just how he constructed his life through actions, and it's not a lot of like over rumination. He touches on like, oh God, am I wasting my life? Should I do this? Should I do that? A couple times, but for the most part, it's very much, yeah, I tried this, or I kept whittling away at this, and eventually certain things came to focus. So yeah, getting outside, being in a real place, getting off the internet, just doing real things, definitely makes life, I feel a bit more fulfilling and just normal, because there's no worse feeling than thinking about your memories and thinking about the story of your life and everything you've experienced, and a lot of those visuals just being things that you've seen on a screen, other people doing, being this like sit down, watching, staring forward kind of person. It's not the worst thing in the world. You could be addicted to drugs. You could be like, I don't know, a criminal of some sort. But it's definitely better to look back on everything and feel happy about the way that you spent it, the way that you lived, and feel as though it wasn't wrought in any sort of like schizophrenic non-reality. It's just, oh yeah, I went for a drive, and while I was driving, I was really looking at the road. I was watching those white lines pass by. I was paying attention to the trees. I was doing everything in my power to be as present as humanly possible. And that pertains to every aspect of life. And I feel like strength is a good guiding force for that sort of presence, because it requires a little bit of strength to stop doing the stupid shit and start doing the good shit. And it requires, I think, a lot of strength in terms of belief and self-trust in order to keep doing that over a long period of time. Next point. Independent and leisurely sport is incredibly important. Think of the native Hawaiians and how they used to spend so much time surfing. He lived a childhood spent among waves, nature, and other friends. You don't owe your life to the capitalist machine. Improvement is personal and unrelated to benefiting a gross system. I feel like every time I read these, I'm focusing more on how I'm saying them and not really like sinking in the points. So I'm going to try to go one by one, because as you can see, I've written little smaller bullet points beneath the major ones. So a lot of native Hawaiians have, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. That was something that he talked about, is that when the colonizers came to Hawaii for the first time, they saw the act of surfing as barbaric. It's like, what are they doing with these giant planks of wood, just like standing on them and riding down waves? You know, that's so weird. Why aren't you like trying to be more productive? What I've learned recently is I've been going to the gym a lot more, and to the climbing gym as well. Like even yesterday I did a back workout, and then I went to the climbing gym, and then I climbed for like an hour, and then I did like some more back shit. And I was listening to some music here and there, but for the most part, I was just listening to like hip hop beats just to get my mind focused. And that's not like some sort of reductive, like I need to focus, I need to just, it's just fun to just do an activity that just involves your body. That is a sport. I mean, this is like the whole point of that book. What is it? Sun and Steel by Yukio Mishima. I haven't read that book, but I've read a couple Mishima books. I really like Mishima, but I haven't read that one yet. But it seems like the general synopsis of that book is that he was a bit of a dork. He loved to read and write, and he found like a new level of fulfillment through physical activity. And that's something that I think I'm trying to achieve too, because a big part of my life was dedicated to, in my childhood, skateboarding. That was like a huge passion of mine, and a means of self-expression, and a means of exploring the world and reinterpreting the environment. And then I got injured a few times, and I kind of fell out of favor with it, and I kind of outgrew it. Don't love the idea of having to spend thousands of dollars on broken bones. Don't love the idea of potentially smacking my head on some concrete and fucking getting paralyzed. But I went to the gym as a substitute for that, started working out a lot more, and then I kind of stopped doing it around the middle of 2022, all the way up until the beginning of this year, 2024. So like 2 years just about of just not going to the gym. And I started having these recurring dreams of me going skateboarding and moving around and just being connected to my body. And it was telling me that I needed to do a sport, that I needed to enjoy my body, I needed to enjoy my environment. My substitute for going to the gym was then going on long walks, and I'd like walk around the city for like a couple hours. I was looking at some old journal entries the other day, and like a couple days I'd gone for like 20-mile walks in 1 week, which was crazy to me. But it's such a ridiculously enjoyable thing to just get moving, to just get outside, exploring your environment, exploring yourself and how you are a component of that environment, just like a tree with its roots in the ground, swaying in the breeze to get all sexy and beautiful for you. But yeah, I think it's very important to do leisurely sport for a bunch of different reasons. You kind of can't fulfill the other goals that you have in your life, and you can't feel entirely like yourself if you're ignoring a essential component of life, which is connection to the body. And an additional thing with that is also eating healthy, of course, cooking your own meals, knowing what's going in your body, not depending on caffeine, getting enough sleep. It's a whole array of things, and it's actually so much easier if you just put in the effort to cut out the nonsensical actions. I could go on that point forever. So yeah, do sports, get physical, don't worry about shoulds or boring maintenance, just move and be engaged in the world. That's what got me back into the gym, really, was just not thinking, oh, I have to do this for this amount of time, I have to go insane, because getting back into the gym after not going for a long time was difficult, because I had grown complacent, I'd grown comfortable not doing it, and I'd lost my love for it. And I think the driving factor for it for a long time was a lack of self-belief, and reapproaching it with self-belief as the driving factor. The polar opposite was just a totally new task for me, because I feel like I've just since grown happier with myself and with my actions, and more trusting of myself, more trusting of the future, more trusting of God. Shout out to that guy. And yeah, just being like, oh, I don't have to do this, but also I do kind of have to do it, because like it's fun and it feels good, and I'm doing it for myself, and it's an investment, but also it's a fun investment. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I keep trying to explain this perfectly, I'm never going to actually make my way down this list. I'm never going to actually explain it perfectly, so I'm just going to keep going. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to stress too much about it. Release anxiety with physicality, pent up and internalized energy. Do it for yourself, not for others. No boasting. And yeah, the last point has to do with the dreams of me skateboarding that I mentioned to you earlier. It's just a good thing to do. It just, whether it be going out to play basketball with your friends, going to the gym, it has to feel like a good environment. It has to feel like a real activity. It has to feel almost culturally relevant and significant, and it has to feel like a lifelong thing. Fitness has to be a goal that is kind of embedded into your core personality for a long time, and you kind of just have to find the right version of that. For me, I'm trying to kind of arrange my life so that I can be as physically active and physically fit and mentally clear as possible, so that when I go to do the things that are important to me, that require more focus and attention, such as my creative projects, or if I end up going back to school, studies, huge brain fart, my apologies. But yeah, I'm just trying to optimize how I treat myself and how I treat the baseline healthy things, and find the right, most fun, creative version that is conducive to my personality and my specific interests, so that I can do it with as much frequency and as much enjoyment and as much presence as possible, which then bleeds obviously into the things that I mentioned. And so I'm trying to find a career that kind of promotes that. For me, it seems like maybe doing something where I'm moving around a lot works. Right now I'm working as a server in a restaurant. That definitely helps significantly because you're on your feet for like 8 hours, sometimes 11 hours, just moving around, running, getting things, talking to people. It's just good for the mind, and then it doesn't exhaust me personally. Like, it doesn't exhaust me, it energizes me. And if I didn't have a balance, then it would exhaust me, but I think I'm aware of the fact that it is helpful to other aspects of my life, and therefore I can kind of keep it in my life without worrying too much. I'm super shaky right now because I have so much caffeine in my system. My apologies. I only have 1 glass of water too. Number 3, let your kids roam freely. Encourage them to be outside. Teach the importance of nature. Show them the value of connectivity and cultivation. Don't allow them to stimulate purely with mindless entertainment. Recall his tales of roaming, then in his 20s taking acid and being excited about a world he didn't know, his courage to travel and experience curiosity. Yeah, he did a lot of... It's funny because I feel like these points, it's hard for me to connect them back to the book. I've since read a couple books that are not this one, which I'll talk about in other videos, but I can't remember exactly everything that happened in the book, but a few things, still come to mind. I feel like the lessons are kind of embedded into myself at this point, but I'm not going to be able to remember every detail with perfect clarity. But he just does a lot of traveling. When he was a kid, he moved to Hawaii from Los Angeles. He had learned surfing in Los Angeles and then kind of had this weird dreamy childhood experience, like just walking through these woods to go to this like little spot on the Hawaiian coast, and it's all beautiful and warm, and he's getting tan, he's spending all this time outside, and his skin is just like soaking up all the sun. He's just like living life, and he's just engaging this like very important part of the earth, the ocean, like feeling the waves, using them to his advantage, like letting the energy from that push him forwards. And that like built this love that he had for surfing, which he just like continued to do throughout the rest of his life. He ended up moving back to Hawaii because him and his family moved away from there. He moved back there a little bit with his girlfriend, lived out of a car, dedicated his free time to surfing, then ended up going to all these various spots. A big portion of this book talks about this surf trip that he went on with his friend Brian, and just Brian is this guy in the cover. Don't know if you can see that. He's the guy sitting with his feet up, and then William Finnegan is the guy that's standing. They definitely look a bit like the kind of guys that you're like, oh, these guys definitely, their parents are fucking loaded. But I don't know if that's actually true. It's also not a bad thing, I think they were using their resources to the advantage of their like what they care about spiritually. I'm about to sneeze. Fuck. Anyways, cool book, a lot of cool stories in here, and yeah, man, let your kids roam. That was honestly a big thing that I enjoyed about skateboarding that I think has permanently like sunk its teeth into my mind. Is just as a kid, my friends and I, we'd explore. I grew up on coastal Massachusetts, so we have a lot of these older, weirdly shaped towns that are all, weaving into each other strangely, and they're all pretty close together too, so you can go from one weirdly shaped, specific nautical themed town to another, and there's just so much to explore in there. You can get lost so easily, and it's so fun. Everything just has its own unique flavor and identity, and there's all these former railroad tracks that have been turned into trails that have tire swings, with like, it's gravel and dirt and, fucking creatures and squirrels and shit, and you can climb trees. And my mom encouraged me to get outside, and she would bring me to the skate park. She'd bring me over to my friend's house, and then my friend and I would explore his town, and then he'd come over to my house and we'd explore my town. And there was just so much pleasure that came from exploration. And I feel like I learned so much just being given a chance to let my mind latch on to whatever it wanted to, with a real loose freedom. And that's something I think is really important that this book touches on as well. It's just part of what made me who I am, is just the fact that I was given a chance to learn that self-expression is important, learn that I'm allowed to self-express, learn that I can identify and I can learn from exploration through adventure. And that, even though, you know, I feel like later in life my adventures were not exactly encouraged, I still didn't let that go. It still is like a part of me. And that's going to forever be a part of me. So that's something that's super important. It also, like, I feel like it's part of the reason why I make art, and is because, not part of the reason, but the entire reason why I make art is because it's just a part of who I am. It is who I am, it's my identity, and it's how I understand the world, it's how I communicate with the world, it's how I talk to other people without speaking to them directly. I would consider even this making art. Like, I took the time to take notes on this book that I finished, and now I'm sitting here recording this video. I'm going to take the time to upload it to YouTube. I expect literally no kickback or anything from it. It's just for the benefit of getting out something that I have within me. Burping. Just like a burp, actually. That's a perfect analogy. And skateboarding changed my life for that explorative purpose, but then also I have vivid memories of sitting in my friend's car, being driven around, just looking at all the scenery passing me by in like 6th grade and just thinking, oh, I could skate that, oh, I could skate that, oh, I could skate that, oh, I could skate that. Like, ooh, this skateboarder who I adore could skate this. If it's something that was like out of my league, which most things were, because I was a pretty neurotic kid, and I was definitely aware of the risks that came from doing big, you know, skating shit. Anyways, number 4, dedicate your life to a personally fulfilling activity that challenges you. Don't do it for money or career prospects or material gain or social status. Yeah, I think that's where art comes in for me. But also there has to be kind of, you have to be well-rounded in that department, which is why I think also I'm pursuing fitness and physical activity. Because to be challenged is to be alive. To be given something to push back against is to build strength. That's like the whole point of, you know, hypertrophy and weightlifting is like the harder you push yourself, well, not the harder you push yourself, but if you routinely push yourself in a sustainable extent, if you push yourself just a little bit every single time that you show up to this, and you just push yourself enough to show up to begin with, you end up seeing the benefits that you want. But also, it's not just that you get more muscular, you look better, you feel more confident, but also it just teaches you that you are capable. And I think the ultimate thing that people want in life is just the ability to feel capable, to feel confident and strong. And whether or not that's applied to the correct principles is up to the individual. But personally, I think the masculinity crisis that people talk about nowadays, there's nothing wrong with men wanting to be strong, or boys wanting to be men. That was something that I struggled with for a long time, is just wanting to feel like a man. Even still to this day, sometimes I look at, like, dude, I'm looking at Luigi Mangione, and I'm like, God, that's a man right there. Like, God, I gotta be more like that guy. I gotta be more like the Italian American that I am, you know? But why am I talking about Luigi Mangione? Stop it. Free him, though. Free him, for real. But yeah, a big part of the masculinity crisis nowadays is just that men want to feel stronger, but they just don't understand, like, what the hell that even means. Or boys, I guess, because I feel like if you're a man, you don't want to feel stronger because you're just doing things routinely that make you feel stronger, and it's like actually an incredibly simple process. People just need to tap into not their anxiety, not the fear that the ego depends on, but just their gut feeling, because that's a message from God. He's telling you, oh, this is what you need to be strong. You need to follow your paternal instincts. You need to follow your older brother instincts. You need to be there for people. You need to take care of people. You need to be kind to people. You need to show up. You need to be able to go to a job, to have a job, to maintain your career, to make money, to provide some sort of value and service to the world around you. You can't just be in this solipsistic cycle of consumption and creation. Like, you have to be there, and you have to be doing it not just for the accrual of revenue, but also because you want to help. and because you want to absorb life. And strength is an incredibly important principle that allows you to discover what it is worth putting energy into. And it also is the thing that produces the energy that you then put into those principles, those values. I guess the Stoics call it eudaimonia. And yeah, if you find something that's personally fulfilling, that just like taps into a specific part of your brain that is that pertains to your specific intelligence, that also challenges you on a routine basis, that gets you out of your comfort zone, that teaches you that you are competent, you're going to live a much better life than a lot of other people. And it's really simple to do that kind of stuff. Weightlifting is a good example. If you like to run, running's a good example. If you like to, I don't know, fucking do yoga. If you like to kickbox. If you like to create art, having a project that you finish, that you put all of yourself into, and then you release it. Because it's really easy to just keep making art over and over again and having no goal related to it. Because because you can do whatever you want. There's no such thing as failure in that equation. The only failure is if you don't do it. And it's good to get started like that. But I think once you've found yourself doing that a lot and it doesn't feel different, you don't need to just challenge yourself in terms of using a different medium, because you need to align it with some sort of sense of giving back. I think that's the goal of art, is to produce something that you can then give to the world. And in order to have something to give to the world, you need to finish it. In order to finish something, you need to go through a series of challenges. I don't know, I hope I don't sound like a fucking crazy person right now. I said, do it because you like it, it's real, it's expansive, and opens you up to odd shits, and because it forces you to be entertained with purposeful and fun effort rather than mindless bullshit. All right, next up we got read more books, talk to more people. Pretty plain and simple. I wrote so many stories, so much to learn, and no better way to approach humanity. Yeah, dude, honestly, I feel the afflictions that people find themselves in nowadays are just because they're substituting real human connection and the entertainment value of person-to-person contact with some sort of cheaper, easier, non-risky, non-challenging entertainment, where, rather than going out and making conversation with a stranger or just engaging a friend who you haven't seen in a month, it's much easier to go on the internet and watch other people talk to each other in a podcast form. And I'm absolutely subject to that. I have spent so much of my life substituting real human contact with those alternatives. And I think I'm a pretty extroverted kind of guy. Like, I like talking to people. I like being around people. I feel energized by people. But that's because I have, boundaries, and I know what I like to give. I don't like to speak to people all the time. I like to step back and be like, okay. Because some people, it's just really hard to know how to talk to them. Some people, I just don't, like, they just expect you to play like a certain sort of like social game with them where it's like, am I right? Come on, you agree, right? And it's like, well, no, I don't agree with you. And also, you're not being vulnerable with me. You're not being honest. So how the fuck am I supposed to like connect with you? But those people aren't really searching for connection. They're looking more for, those people aren't bad either. They're just, they just probably find it, that's just how they connect, I guess, is just speaking constantly. For me personally, I like to be around people. Being around people energizes me. When I'm by myself and there's no people in sight, this is kind of a good example. I'm kind of surrounded by woods here. I start to feel really annoyed and bored. And then I substitute that with bullshit, like, I don't know, podcasts or a movie or, that kind of stuff is good in small doses. But in larger doses, and if you're doing it reflexively, compulsively, it's not healthy. And that's another reason why I mentioned strength and challenge. Sorry, my neck just cracked. Because strength and challenge allows you to consistently make choices that are for the betterment of your life. Because you just develop a sort of pain tolerance, and And through the development of pain tolerance, you also develop a sense of dignity and personal self-worth. Like, you know what you're worth, you know what you like, and you're not going to sacrifice that because you know that it's functional, it's healthy, it's sustainable. And why the fuck would you watch a YouTube video when you could go hang out with somebody who you care about a lot? You know what I mean? You just get more benefits, and also you're not afraid of doing that because you know who you are. You have boundaries. You know how to interact with people. And the only way you can really achieve that is with strength as a guiding force. And listen to your gut regarding what that strength is. You know, I'm gonna make this choice based on what feels correct. And to stick with that, that is a form of strength. I feel like I sound like I'm not making much sense. Anyways, yeah, read more books, man. There's so much stuff out there. Like, there's so much interesting stuff out there. Honestly, one of the greatest choices I've ever made is just trying to get back into reading. I'm still not really there. Like, I'm reading a book right now that's kind of boring, and it's just taking so much out of me to pick it up. But I know that the first part of the book was really interesting, and now I'm just in a lull. But I know that, you know, if I keep going at it, eventually I'll have finished it, and I'll feel good about that. And there'll be a lot of knowledge gained from that. And yeah, dude, I'd much rather gain information and knowledge from books than from the internet. Okay, I'm going a little too slow here, talking a little too much. Do a little adventurous soul searching is my next point. It's easier said than done. It involves risk and discomfort. William Finnegan wondered whether or not he was wasting his life. And then I say travel and meditative movement immediately shift something in the mind. And I also said your future self will thank you for the awe, the stories, and the fun had. I totally agree. I've spent the last 2 summers in Alaska. And I intend to spend maybe this summer as well up there. I'm not really sure yet. Just depends on if everything comes together nicely. But yeah, taking that risk, didn't really feel like much of a risk the second time around, but the first time I went up there, it definitely felt more risky and more intense. I would never give it back. I would never take it back. I had to quit my job, which I'd worked pretty hard for a specific position in that job. It wasn't anything crazy. I was just a shift manager at Starbucks, but I tried to be that for a long time, and I'd just become that. I was that for about 6 months, I think. And then, or no, it was like more like 8 months, almost a year. And then I quit because I had achieved what I wanted. I had reaped the benefits of that, but that chapter of my life I could feel was closing, and I needed to do something different. And so I needed to expand my horizons. I needed to learn more skills. And so I made this choice to upend my current living situation, which wasn't that difficult because the apartment I was living in was pretty gross. So I was like, oh, goodbye, you know, getting away from all the mouse shit. And also the heat didn't work in the living room, so it's freezing cold all the time. Fantastic. 20-degree fucking living room when you're spending, you know, when you're paying for the heat is like pretty frustrating, and your landlord's not showing up to fix it. Whatever. So that definitely motivated me to get the fuck out of there. But yeah, being up there, being in Alaska, and just seeing myself in this totally new environment, and I dreamt about Alaska for so long. I just wanted to see what it was like, and then I stumbled across this opportunity by luck of my now girlfriend, then friend, and just everything in my life has changed as a result of that. I've just grown so much. I've learned so much about myself. I've learned so much about the world. I've gained so much experience. I have new things added to my resume. And yeah, even though I went up there for the purpose of working and making money, every moment of my free time I tried to spend it with as much clarity and meditative focus as possible. And like I said, I gained a lot from that. And the second time I went around, I even finished an album up there. I did a lot of mixing, so like I finished an album in Alaska. It's crazy. You just never know what's going to come from a big change like that. But also, you know, that's not a perfect point. Not everybody can do that. There's people that have kids, that have lives, that have houses they have to pay for. But there are definitely smaller things that you can do in your day-to-day life that allow you to soul search. Maybe you drive to a more walkable part of town and you spend an hour just walking. No music, just paying attention, thinking, that's it. You'll gain a lot more from that than you might expect. Okay, moving on to the back half of the page. Next point is, there are interesting people locked into interesting activities all across the world, many of whom you've never heard of. That's what I really was thinking about while reading this book, is like, I've never met anybody who's done anything like this. I had no idea that William Finnegan even existed before this book. I'm sure there's a lot of people that did, because he's like a pretty prominent, journalist and writer, and he's covered war zones. He's like spent time in apartheid South Africa. He's read a book about it. Like, he's not exactly an unknown name, but he's also not a household name. And yeah, dude, inside this book, there's so many interesting personalities. There's this one guy, I think his name is Mark, who's a surfer, like an elite level surfer, and also a cancer researcher and doctor. And it's like, dude, like, I've never heard of that guy either. It's like, this guy's a doctor, cancer researcher, wrote a text that I think Stanford uses for their like cancer research program or something like that. He wrote a book on cancer, and he's also an elite level surfer and a doctor. Like, if you apply yourself in life, if you focus, if you just try to spend your days doing what you know you should be doing, what is correct in your gut, so many things come to focus and can be gained from that. Like, you can just become the kind of person that you never would have expected yourself to become, and there's a lot of beauty in that. So thinking about all these different people, think about how many people are out there that have just done incredible things, like even just Vietnam veterans that are just living nowadays, that have probably lived all over the world, that fought in wars, that have those experiences, that have killed a man. I don't know. Why would I sit on my couch? Why would I stay inside? Why would I sleep in? I still do these things, don't get me wrong. Why would I waste time on the internet? I still do that as well. When I could be going outside and making real memories and being not as interesting as these people, because I'm not in competition with them, but why would I not want to take full advantage of my potential? And you can't really rationalize away the problems that you have, or the mistakes that you've made, or the failures that you've found yourself sucked up into. And you can't rationalize away the issues that you currently have to deal with, like debt, or you're in school and you're not doing super well, you're failing, you need to like get yourself out of that rut, whatever, or you're unemployed and you're looking for a job. But when you have free time, you absolutely, if you just take 10 minutes to not look at a screen, to just sit and think about what it is you should do for your next step, to use boredom as like a guiding force for your choice in that moment, because in that moment, the present is all you have, then if you do that consistently enough, you will have accomplished something eventually. And the more things you accomplish, the more things you do, the easier all of these interesting things in life become. The more you know yourself, and the more you know what you want, and the more you do those things. Like me, for example, one thing I want to do in the future is I want to just fucking maybe get my pilot's license, like a small pilot's license, and just like, I didn't even realize that was something that I wanted until I made an album, which is crazy, because I'm like, oh, that's something I can do. What else can I do? And it's just that naturally brings up ideas, I guess. Okay, here's some other things that I wrote. There's this other guy that he mentions in the book who's an illustrator, surfer, of course. He repairs boats, sailboats, loves to fish. There's photos of him with these giant fish. He lives near New York City. I think he lived on Long Island. Like, what an interesting guy. And you definitely need money to live a life like that, for sure. But there's definitely many ways to make money and also to enjoy yourself at the same time. That's part of the reason why I make products such as these albums, writing this book. Of course, these are all things that I enjoy doing, but there's potential revenue to be accrued passively through the release of these projects. So not only am I giving something to the world, I'm also potentially, it's like setting stakes in the ground and being like, the more people walk by these stakes, a little dividend comes my way. And same thing with like investing in stocks and stuff like that. Sorry, there's a dog like going crazy outside. But yeah, you can set yourself up to, through perseverance doesn't just have to be creative or personal projects. That's just my own experience. That's just what I enjoy doing. You don't have to start a business, anything like that. But even just through getting a college degree, like that process can be so enjoyable. And you can go to night classes while you work at like a fast food restaurant, live with roommates, and there's a lot of compromises to be made in order to become the ideal self, I guess. A good life is one of awareness and firm choices, unfed by a disrupted ego. These are all bullet points within that previous one. Commit to something. Substitute bullshit with the fun of effortful entertainment. That's something I already mentioned before. Is when you feel compulsions to do something that is definitely a waste of your time, that you know is a waste of your time, that is not something you identify with, but has become a part of your identity just through routine, habitual, compulsive practice, such as watching television or, I don't know, fucking jerking off or whatever. That stuff becomes who you are if you don't stop it. And once you stop it and you go and you do that maybe 10 minutes, like I said, to just pause and be like, well, what do I actually want? You start to realize what it is that's afflicting you, that causes you to make those unfortunate choices. And dude, just fix what the fuck is afflicting you. If you're scared about, if you feel sad about your parent dying, you know, come to terms with that grief. All of these things are within people's grasp. There's definitely people that have it harder than other people, like somebody who has ALS, for example. Holy shit, that would be very difficult. Very, very difficult. But it's still, you know, I have faith in you. God has faith in you. Everybody has faith in you that you can overcome what it is that is stressing you out, that is making you want to numb yourself and hide. And you're still alive. After all of it, you're still alive, and there's still things to be enjoyed. And you don't need to compare yourself to other people and be like, oh, they're enjoying all that, or, you know, I can't have this, because it's about what you can enjoy. And that is the ultimate way to, I think, find satisfaction. I also said, don't live a life of video games and wasted talent, and don't take yourself so seriously that you must be a perfect hero overcoming shit. These people just do it because they're personally empowered and have been doing it for a while. Get over the initial hump, find strength. Start early, do in the morning. Understand that when you feel dread regarding a task, it's just because you don't want to start. You don't want to transfer feelings of comfort into feelings of progress. Okay, I'm still taking a long time. I don't know how long I've been sitting here. Next up, we have build parent lore. Seriously. I did a little bit of research on this guy. I found out that his daughter is a climber who I think goes to NYU. He wrote a book on it. That's all I know about that, but it's just interesting. Like, he definitely had a role in like encouraging his daughter becoming a climber. That's for sure. Like, she's climbed mountains. She climbs in the gym, bouldering, and now she climbs for like the NYU climbing team. Pretty inspiring. I'd love to, once I'm a dad, because I intend to be a dad, be like, yo, son or daughter, how about you fucking climb that shit? Or how about you go skateboarding? How about you go surfing, but wear a helmet when you go skateboarding? How about you do mountain biking? I don't know, something that gets you out of the house that you enjoy. That doesn't really relate to parent lore, but whatever. It definitely provides context for like, well, Dad, why should I do that? It's like, let me tell you, not because you have to, but because you have to. And there's a difference between those two. He drove across Australia, worked odd jobs with weirdos, wrote books on difficult subjects, loved and lost, found peace in railroad operating, which is what he wrote that initial novel that ended up not going anywhere. He taught at a school. He lived near remote Fijian villages. He's lived in New York City. Like, the more confidence and strength that you find in your personal life, the more interesting things you just naturally end up doing, because what is most interesting is what is most related to your soul personally. And if you try to surround yourself with gimmicks and keychains and bandages of coolness, like if you try to wear an outfit to give off an essence of coolness, of an aura, you'll never actually feel interesting. You'll never feel enough. You'll always be trying to fill a bottomless cup. You know, the water just goes in one end and out the other. If you want to feel fulfilled, if you want to feel whole, You need to follow strength, and then you need to make choices regarding that strength. And then you just end up doing interesting things because strength teaches you who you are, and who you are is interesting naturally, and you're interested in things. And when you don't have options such as entertainment as like a numbing agent, and you understand that you're worth more than numbing, you end up just being gravitated towards cool shit. Like you learn a language, you make a graphic novel, you fucking, I don't know, you cut your dick off. I don't know, man. You do cool stuff. You'll regret too much time indoors. Brace the wild for its honesty. That's another thing about surfing that I find really interesting. My throat's getting so dry right now. I don't have any spindrift near me. How unfortunate. Whatever. Nevertheless, we persist, but my throat fucking hurts. But yeah, man, like surfing, you're out in the water, you're like getting overcome by these waves. It's like this beautiful thing. Like how, like, you know what I mean? Like a sport that relates to nature in that way is incredible. Going for a run, that also relates to nature because your body is built to run. My body's not built to run. I have weird hips and fucking, I don't know, lose weight, man. But sport, I think, is most interesting when it feels most conducive to the natural world, when it feels not just related to nature, like, oh, I'm going for a run and look at all these beautiful trees, but also like you're participating in the natural order. Going for a run is participating in the natural order. There's like an energy in you. There's like momentum naturally in you, and you need to express that through just like movement, through going. It feels pretty fulfilling to be a surfer in that sense because there's people that have needs, that have wants, that have empty tables, that want food on their tables, and like you're the one that's going back and forth, making them feel comfortable, like you have a role in the natural order of that environment. In surfing, like these waves, you're not letting them go to waste. You're the person that's putting this piece of fiberglass in this wave and riding it and using that energy to connect you to the ocean and also like connect you to yourself. And it's a very beautiful thing. It's very spiritual, and I can't fully explain it because you'll just have to trust me on that one. Yeah. I also said, don't exist in an air-conditioned cabin. Secure access to the unexplored nooks and crannies. Okay. Coming up on 3 points left. Next point is fuck a side hustle. Commit to real skills and experiences. Don't waste time trying to get rich. Get life experience. Get helpful skills. Then I said work equals trading your skills and labor and time and knowledge for the benefit of a system that in turn grants you the necessities of life. Don't conflate the experience of adulthood with random attempts at subverting this truth, dismembering your ability to participate in real and meaningful work. Meaning, capitalism is frustrating. We all know this. There's things about the system that are frustrating. I think this United Healthcare shooting is a really good example of that. People are really pissed off. There's insane class disparity. Billionaires are billionaires, man. The richest person in the world is worth, I think, 400 billion. He's not even like, I don't even think he's in his, I think he's in his 50s or he's not in his 50s yet. I don't know how old Elon Musk is. He's the richest person, right? But he's on track to becoming the world's first trillionaire. Trillionaire. And there's some people that have cancer treatment that they can't afford to pay for. There's people who would rather die than indebt their families to, like, keeping them alive another year. What the fuck? Like, that's horrible. There's horrible things inside of the system. However, you can't allow those things to make you become cynical. You can't use that as an excuse to be weak because those things are horrible and they should be changed and they should be worked on, but also the desire to be weak is like a totally different desire. It's something that searches endlessly for justification. And if you're smart enough, you will find that justification in something that feels spiritually exhausting and draining. And for me, when I think about the healthcare system, I feel like, oh my God, like it just totally disembodies me. It makes me feel as though the world is horrible. It makes me feel very, very cynical, very nihilistic, very doomer. And you can't be that, man. Just trust me, you just can't be that because day-to-day life, like, most of you are not experiencing like the horrors that implies. Some of you are, but also those of you that are, know very well how important it is to be prepared. And so you need to, on a very practical level, you need to be prepared for the difficulties that life will naturally throw at you, but also that's not a reason to like be strong, because I hate that kind of rhetoric. Like Jocko Willink, he's like, life is fucking bad and you need to be prepared for it. Dude, I'd rather kill myself. If life sucked and I just need to work for it to not suck, just to scrape by, I'd rather fucking die. I think most people would agree with that. So that's not the perspective that you can have. It has to be very much, life is really good. I have to become strong enough to be able to appreciate it. And also, dude, like, the ultimate thing that you want is connectivity to God. And the more positive and optimistic and honest you are with yourself, honest, that doesn't mean cynical, it means honest, the closer you feel that connection. The closer you feel that connection, man, the more you're protected from the elements of life. Sorry, I flipped the paper around, so I was a little bit confused for a second there. So yeah, the system's difficult, but you're not engaging the system for money or for self-protection. You're doing it because there's a world out there, there's a tree full of fruit, and you want to get that fruit. And what that means to you personally, that requires a lot of thought, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of persistence, but you can find it if you do that work, if you do that personal work, and if you care. I care. I learned that if I want a job, obviously, because I want to work, I want to make money, I have to make money, but also I don't just get money from a job, I get human contact, human interaction, I get to help people, I get to, like something like EMT work would be really fulfilling for me because I'd be helping people, or I'd be moving around all the time, I'd be healthy, like it would just keep me active, it would keep my mind occupied and not thinking all the time about these other things that are important to me or these other things that are stressing me out. It's a distraction that's also beneficial. So that's why it's important to build real skills, because you're not trying to escape the system, you're trying to, I think it's important to focus on repair of it, but a lot of that can be really exhausting and frustrating. So I think it's important to just become a person who is actively participating in the good aspects of it. And don't try to build a side hustle to like scam as many people as possible. Instead, learn a skill, have more job security, have more of a likelihood that over the course of 10 years, you're gonna make enough money and be able to save a good amount, put it in your retirement fund and build that. But also, like, those 10 years will not be spent in vain. You're not just building a fucking scam machine. You're building, you'll have, like, thousands of stories about helping and being present for other people, etc. Okay, last two. Commit to the person you love if you know that it's right. He writes about his wife in a very, very beautiful way. I forget what he said, but he just describes her as being kind of just tough and, like, you know what I mean? And I think that it just inspires me a lot, just thinking about that. His dad's love for his mother. There's a photo of them at Yosemite in old age. Let's see if I can find it real quick. But there's just a lot of discussions about love in this book that make me feel really happy. And yeah, I don't really think that needs much of an explanation. Don't know if you can see it. That's the photo of his parents. Don't know if you can see it. I hope you can. So, yeah. And then his dad ended up dying, having died a good example. If you're unsure, leave. She's not the only girl in the world. He's not the only guy in the world. There's a girl out there who is inspiring and calming in all the right ways, though, of course, blissfully imperfect. That's something that I think is, it just, when you think about love, you want it to warm your heart in a way where everything sort of gets this sort of glossy warmth over top of it. And that's also one of the ways in which all of this doomerism, cynicism can fade, is if you just find somebody who you can not struggle through life, but experience life with. Somebody who, who understands you and you understand them. There's always the thing of like, oh, you will never fully connect with a person. Nobody's ever going to completely know you. But there's definitely a sense of having been known and having been trusted and understood and loved, regardless of not being completely known. That is real, and that is worth investing. And people are like, dude, marriage is a scam, monogamy is a scam. It's like, it's not. You just don't understand what you don't understand what it actually means to be in love, in my opinion. And what it means to be in love is to trust your fucking gut. Trust your fucking gut about a person. Don't Reddit, is this a red flag? Reddit, am I the asshole? Don't do any of that nonsense. Just be, hey, do I love this person? Why do I? Why do I not? All right, well, let's make a choice based on this. Let's take some action. Anyways, final point. Things do change and life is short, so embrace peace and boredom and be grateful. Yeah, I think the thing that makes me feel most amazed with this whole story is just seeing the photo of him in there as a young boy, and then seeing also the author's photo and photos of him online now in his 70s. It's like, wow, this was a person who's lived their entire life. He might pass away soon. He's getting older. Hopefully he still lives, into his 80s, because it'd be really unfortunate if he died. I feel like dying in your 70s is pretty young, but yeah, he was my age in the 1970s, which is a long time ago, but also it's not really that long ago. Think about everything that's changed in the 1970s. Think about all the time that's existed before the 1970s. Like, this time that we have is so short. And I'm 26 now, man. I'm past the age of 25. My whole life, I've felt young. This is the first time in my life I feel young, but also, hey, man, you can't be fucking up in the same way. You can't be stupid in the same way that you used to be. You have to be an adult. Maybe that feeling should have come earlier, but I'm just amazed with the pace of life, and I'm amazed with the mental gymnastics that take that time away from life, and I'm amazed with what one can do to just, like, maybe I shouldn't put my foot in the shot, but what one can do to just live a connected and whole life, and how easy it is to be a human being, and how easy it is to just, like, watch time pass, and how easy it is to find things that make you feel that connectedness that just makes life so worth it. Because, dude, there's really nothing better than that sort of connectedness. And yeah, so those are my thoughts on Barbarian Days by William Finnegan. Released in 2015, published in 2015, sorry. Very good book. Enjoyed it. It's a bit of a thick one, but it's a really easy read. His prose is pretty straightforward. Not really an insanely creative or incredible take on, I guess, writing. It's not like some, like, James Joyce, like, crazy sort of authorship, but it's just a very well done, engaging, interesting book. And yeah, it made me feel really happy the entire time I was reading it, even the more difficult points, like his dad ended up dying of Parkinson's, which is actually a pretty big fear of mine, is having something like ALS and Parkinson's. Hopefully that doesn't age like milk. But just his dad still, like, lived such a full life, and he still just took advantage of all these moments despite his ailment. And yeah, man, it's a good book. It's a good book. Give it a read. Hopefully you got something from this video. If not, sorry. If so, fuck yeah. If not, bummer. If so, hell yeah. Me too. I'm gonna probably do more of these. I don't know. My name's Cameron Champo. Listen to Osato on Spotify. OH space SATO. Spotify. I'm out.